Welcome to the Mystery and History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. A native man from Papua New Guinea, known as a Fuzzy Wuzzy Angel, guides a wounded and blindfolded Australian soldier on December 25, 1942. This humanitarian help during the Kokoda track campaign was vital to the survival of Allied troops under extreme jungle conditions during World War II. The commander of an M48 Patton tank watches the operational zone through his optics during the Vietnam War in 1967. The image highlights the pressure of the conflict, in which armored vehicles were used to hold back opposing forces in dense and difficult terrain. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin captured a historic self-portrait during the Gemini 12 mission on November 12, 1966. The curve of the Earth is clearly reflected in his visor as he performs activity outside the spacecraft in the vacuum of space. The achievement helped establish technical procedures that were fundamental to the Apollo program. Soldiers of the Royal Hungarian Army operate a mobile field kitchen during military maneuvers in 1938. The steam-powered equipment was essential for feeding troops on the move, reflecting technical modernization and the tensions that came before the outbreak of World War II in Europe. The Cathedral of Light in Nuremberg was a visual effect created by Albert Speer for major political events in 1937. More than 100 anti-aircraft searchlights were pointed straight into the sky to form glowing columns around the crowd. The lighting strengthened the government's image of power and control. Wood and tin shacks fill the old Central Park Reservoir, revealing the harsh reality of unemployment in New York. Thousands of displaced people sought shelter beneath the gaze of the elite's luxury buildings, while relief policies proved too weak to stop the spread of extreme poverty. 30 men balance on the roof of an auto union DKW F7 in Germany in 1937 during a public demonstration of structural strength. The test was meant to prove the durability of the wood body, an innovative technique aimed at saving resources and preserving the vehicle's integrity under extreme pressure. Sergeant Frank Prater feeds an orphaned kitten with an eyedropper during the Korean War in 1952. The compassionate act in the middle of a war zone shows a search for kindness and normal life in a hostile setting, highlighting emotional bonds in hard times. Children cross a river on the outskirts of Modena in 1959, using a fragile system of pulleys and ropes to get to school in post-war Italy. The students' daily effort reflects the lack of infrastructure in rural areas, where education depended on overcoming geographic and social obstacles. Acrobat Betty Fox defies gravity by jumping rope on a small platform built at the top of the Hotel Fort Shelby in 1945. The daring performance in Detroit took place hundreds of feet above the ground, capturing the bold spirit of entertainment that aimed to amaze American audiences near the end of the war. In the United Kingdom in 1997, a circus performer is photographed showing contortion by fitting inside a transparent bottle-shaped container. The act highlights extreme flexibility, something common in stage performances. The simple setting suggests a backstage area and full focus on the pose. Actress Tippi Hedren rests beside her pet lion Neil in a garden in California in 1971. The large animal lived freely with the family in Sherman Oaks as part of a behavioral observation project. That arrangement later sparked debate about keeping wild species in domestic settings. Workers carefully unwrapped the Mona Lisa after the end of World War II in 1945. Da Vinci's masterpiece survived the conflict by being hidden in safe locations in the French countryside, far from bombings and German looting, and returned safely to the Louvre Museum as the collection was reorganized. A female worker at Douglas Aircraft Company installs rivets on the frame of an A-20 military aircraft at the Long Beach plant during World War II. The large-scale entry of women into war production in the United States reshaped the workforce and supported the Allied logistical effort. Female workers labor at the National Shell Filling Factory in Chilwell in 1917 to support the British war effort. Huge amounts of military material fill the factory floor while the women handle suspended loads. Female participation was vital in keeping the operations of that period running. Military personnel in training use a detailed model airfield to simulate air traffic control during the war effort. Practicing with miniatures made it possible to master safety and logistics procedures before working with real aircraft, improving technical training. Actress Catherine O'Hara poses sitting on the hood of a classic car during a photo shoot in the 1970s. At the beginning of her artistic path, the young Canadian was building her career in comedy and improvisational theater, preparing the ground for her later success in world cinema. Passengers exercise in the gym of the ocean liner Franconia in 1912, using Edwardian-era fitness equipment aboard the Cunard ship. That routine of leisure and health at sea ended in 1916, when the vessel was lost in a German submarine attack during World War I. The leveling of hills in Seattle began in 1897 to make urban expansion easier, transforming local geography through aggressive hydraulic methods. The process lasted until 1930, removing natural high ground that blocked commerce and forcing homes and other structures to adapt. Prototype of a spacesuit for lunar exploration designed by Republic Aviation Corporation on March 16, 1960. The rigid, cylindrical design shows the technological experiments of the space race, as engineers searched for ways to improve movement in hostile environments before the success of the Apollo missions. The USS Macon airship releases Curtiss F-9C-2 Sparrowhawk fighters during maneuvers in the 1930s. This United States Navy aircraft operated like a flying aircraft carrier, able to carry up to 5 biplanes in its internal hangar for reconnaissance missions, extending the fleet's strategic reach. Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson talk backstage in the early 1980s, a period when the two pop icons explored musical collaborations in Los Angeles. The meeting reflects the creative crossover of major forces in the global recording industry before professional differences brought the joint projects to an end. Candidate John F. Kennedy reviews his notes during the intense American presidential campaign of 1960. As he focuses on the final adjustments to his speech, a group of young people watches closely through a window in the background, showing the charisma and hope surrounding his political rise. Mao Zedong prepares to swim at his resort in Lushan in 1961, reinforcing his public image of vitality and physical strength. Images like this were important to political propaganda in China, symbolizing the leader's power in the face of the nation's internal and external challenges. Future British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is photographed at a social event at age 22 in March 1986. At the time, he belonged to Oxford's narrow academic circle, where he was building the foundations of his political network. The image captures the youth of a central figure in contemporary European life. President Lyndon B. Johnson drives his amphibious car through the waters of a lake at his ranch in Texas on April 10, 1965. Using the Amphicar 770 was one of his favorite amusements, and he often played jokes on guests by pretending the brakes had failed before driving into the water. During her official visit to India in 1961, Queen Elizabeth II rides through the streets of Benares on a richly decorated elephant. The diplomatic event reinforced ties between the British monarchy and the Commonwealth, displaying cultural blending in a ceremony marked by local tradition. Opened at the top of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the restaurant Windows on the World offered a panoramic view of Manhattan in 1976. The sophisticated space served as a symbol of New York's economic power and architectural modernity, attracting the global elite to dine above the clouds before the changes of the new century. The grand facades of the Hotel Astor dominate the New York scene in 1909, showing the luxury of the Belle Epoque before intense vertical growth. Horses and streetcars share the street in front of the building, which gave way to progress in 1967 and was replaced by One Astor Plaza in the heart of Times Square. Workers and executives celebrate at the Tarrytown plant in 1963 as the 50th million Chevrolet rolls off the assembly line. The special model, a gold-painted Impala SS Coupe, symbolizes the height of American industrial production and the rise of General Motors as a giant in the global auto market. Workers labor on a General Motors assembly line in 1969. The factory unit shows the complex engineering needed to join chassis and bodies of sports models, reflecting the peak of American auto production and the efficiency of modern industrial processes. A convoy of trucks carrying gigantic logs moves through the main street of North Bend, Washington in 1943. Transporting this massive timber shows the peak of the logging industry in the northwestern United States, supplying essential raw material during the years of World War II. Thousands of military motorcycles wait for buyers in a war surplus yard in 1946. The massive number of vehicles reflects post-war demobilization, with assets worth billions of dollars being moved back into the civilian market to help the economy during Reconstruction. A woman driver fills her vehicle at a self-service gas station in the United States during the middle of the 1970s. The price sign shows rates below 50 cents per gallon, reflecting an economic moment before major fuel crises would reshape the global market. Motorcycle police patrol the streets of Los Angeles in 1927 while enforcing local traffic laws. The warning sign uses humor to discourage speeding, suggesting that rushing will lead straight to jail and showing the authorities' efforts to keep public roads safe. The drive-in restaurant The Track introduced an automated delivery system using metal rails in Los Angeles in 1949. This technological innovation allowed orders to reach the windows of parked cars directly, improving service and reflecting the growing car culture. The Mobot, a mobile robot developed by Hughes Aircraft in 1961, demonstrates its technical abilities by helping a woman get dressed in California. This Cold War innovation reflects the space-age optimism around home automation, anticipating modern ideas of robotics and artificial intelligence in everyday life. Scientists use detailed spherical models to study lunar phases during preparations for the United States space program in 1962. The technical planning required precise calculations of orbital paths over the moon's surface, building the theoretical foundation for a future crewed landing. Naturalist William Beebe poses beside his bathysphere in 1932, a pioneering steel capsule designed for deep ocean exploration. The device allowed groundbreaking observations of marine life in abyssal zones, pushing the limits of oceanography and underwater engineering in the years between the wars. The Egyptian obelisk known as Cleopatra's Needle remains in its original location in Alexandria during the 1870s. A monument from the era of Thutmose III, the granite piece was later moved to London in a complex Victorian transport operation, where it still stands today as a historic and cultural landmark. Mary Monroe Sanderson, born in 1748, is considered one of the earliest born people ever recorded by a camera. A resident of Lexington, she lived until 1852, spanning the transition from the colonial world to the industrial era, and leaving behind a rare visual link between the 18th and 19th centuries. Vivian Bales travels across the United States on her 1929 Harley-Davidson during an epic 78-day journey covering 5,000 miles. The feat challenged the gender norms of the time and served as powerful publicity for the brand, showing the durability of the motorcycles and the spirit of female independence. A family poses in front of its adapted home inside a huge tree trunk in 1901. Measuring about 23 feet across, the natural structure was used as a permanent shelter on the American frontier, showing the creative and rough housing solutions of the settlement and expansion period. A street vendor in Japan between 1890 and 1896 transports a huge load of brooms, baskets, and household goods on a wooden cart. The record details everyday trade in the Meiji era, highlighting handmade production and the continued use of traditional delivery methods in urban centers. An employee arranges cereal boxes in a grocery store in Texas during November 1939. Brands like Kellogg's and Shredded Ralston fill the wooden shelves beneath wide windows. The hand-arranged display reflects traditional retail trade before the full expansion of modern supermarkets. An automatic milk vending machine operated in London during the 1940s to make the product easier to get. A child pulls the metal lever to fill a ceramic jug directly from the dispenser spout. Urban innovations like this were meant to improve the distribution of essential foods. Two women smile in the middle of a heavy snowstorm that struck city streets in 1922. The image captures the decade's winter fashion, with heavy coats and berets, while also showing everyday resilience in the face of severe weather that often shut down transportation and social life. A young couple drives a classic car in front of the impressive rock formation Balanced Rock at Garden of the Gods during the 1920s. Located in Colorado, the huge sandstone rock balances on a narrow base, serving as a popular tourist landmark for some of the earliest motor travelers in the United States. Fishermen watch from the sand at Baker Beach as work on the Golden Gate Bridge progresses in 1936. The monumental steel structure begins to connect the shores of San Francisco Bay, transforming the California landscape as workers finish one of the world's greatest achievements in modern engineering. Workers in a cigar factory around 1900 listen closely to a newspaper being read aloud by a reader positioned high above them. This cultural practice was common for informing and entertaining laborers during repetitive manual work, keeping a flow of ideas moving across the factory floor. Students at the University of Tehran in 1971 represent the westernization of social customs promoted during the Pahlavi dynasty in Iran. Women's access to higher education and greater freedom in clothing marked the White Revolution, coming before the dramatic social and political changes of the following decade. Elvis Presley and Deborah Paget posed during the filming of Love Me Tender in 1956, marking the singer's screen debut. The movie used the rock and roll craze to attract young audiences, helping turn him from a music icon into a global entertainment star. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Grace Jones relax behind the scenes of Conan the Destroyer in 1984, showing the atmosphere of the decade's major fantasy productions. The pairing of the bodybuilding star and the iconic Jamaican artist helped shape the action style that would dominate world cinema. An informal 1976 gathering between Linda and Paul McCartney, Sarah and Bob Dylan, and Cher and Greg Allman highlights the decade's cultural energy. The meeting of rock and pop icons in a social setting reflects the close connections of the music elite, strengthening partnerships and influences that shaped the recording industry. The bright sign of the Warner Theater in Pittsburgh announces the premiere of The Godfather in 1972, featuring the names of Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. The release of Francis Ford Coppola's film drew crowds and became a cultural landmark that redefined the mafia movie genre. Carrie Fisher and Darth Vader pose on a beach during the filming of Return of the Jedi in 1983. This behind-the-scenes record from the production of the third Star Wars film highlights the contrast between the iconic costumes and the relaxed setting, revealing the scale of the franchise's cultural phenomenon. The main cast of Young Frankenstein poses behind the scenes of Mel Brooks's 1973 production. The film satirizes the classic Universal horror movies, bringing together Gene Wilder and Marty Feldman in a story that became a comedy landmark while honoring the look of the 1930s. Actress Anita Ekberg confronts photographers with a bow and arrow outside her home in 1960. The clash came after hours of relentless pursuit, symbolizing the growing tension between celebrities and paparazzi in Italy during a period of intense media exposure and loss of privacy. The iconic Hollywood star Jane Mansfield holds her young daughter Mariska Hargitay in her lap during a family moment in 1964. The actress's daily life, often marked by movie glamour, here reveals a personal side that connects generations of American acting and the continuation of an artistic legacy. Musician Louis Armstrong draws a trumpet and signs a fan's scalp in Nice, France in 1961. The playful gesture took place during one of his European tours, where his popularity as an ambassador of jazz was enormous. The interaction shows how close the artist felt to his international audience. Albert Einstein devotes himself to his beloved violin in 1941, revealing the deep connection between music and his scientific creative process. The German physicist found in the instrument an intellectual and emotional refuge, keeping this artistic practice as an essential part of his everyday life in the United States. Timekeeping officials operate precision equipment from an elevated platform during the Stockholm Olympic Games in 1912. The event marked the introduction of electronic timing systems and the use of cameras to help determine race results, setting new standards for a global sports organization. Passers-by study the new map of Europe displayed in a public place after the armistice of 1918. The redrawing of national borders and the creation of new states deeply changed the continent's geopolitics, sparking public interest in the newly established world order. A large family poses lined up by height on a residential street in Boston in 1925. The group, made up of 13 children, reflects the demographic patterns of large households at the time, showing the social organization and daily life of urban communities in the American East. Family ingenuity in the 1930s appeared in curious devices like this suspended skating support. The couple uses straps attached to their shoulders to carry a child across the ice with some stability. Recreational practices of the period tested new limits in both safety and leisure. The birth of a hybrid foal from a zebra and a donkey took place at Colchester Zoo in 1971, drawing attention because of its biological rarity. The animal shows distinctive stripes on its legs inherited from the father, while its body resembles the build of the mother. In the United States in 1922, brothers Johnny and Robert Eck pose for a studio portrait in formal clothing with support from a small pedestal. Johnny was born with a congenital condition that affected the lower part of his body and, while still young, became known through public performances. Renee Dangour poses with her sash and trophy after being crowned the first Miss Baghdad in Iraq's history. Of Jewish background, her victory represented a brief moment of cosmopolitan life and religious tolerance in the Arab country before political tensions forced much of that community to leave the region. A Pan-American World Airways flight attendant arranges meals in a modern aircraft galley during the 1950s. The luxurious onboard service symbolized the height of the golden age of commercial aviation, when flying was an exclusive experience reserved for the post-war social elite. Makeup artist Max Factor uses the beauty micrometer on a model during the 1930s. The complex metal device was designed to detect tiny facial asymmetries in order to guide the use of cosmetics, reflecting the movie industry's obsessive search for visual perfection on screen. The work environment in engineering offices during the 1970s required large physical spaces for manual technical drawing. Professionals used long tables or even the floor itself to create complex plans with rulers and compasses. The shift to digital software removed that logistical need. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.